Do you know the scalable response to a great forecast? Let's get ready for 2025.
Welcome to the Intentional Success Podcast, where we unpack the top strategies, explore business trends, and drill down into best practices to help your live events production business grow and scale on purpose. I'm your host, Tom Stimson.
Not all of my clients forecast very well or very far in advance, but the ones who do are telling me that they're seeing revenues for 2025 to be up, at least in the first half of the year, 10 to 25% over 2024. This is a huge increase, okay? This is a lot of new revenue. Now, recently, in the fall of 2024, we've had some softness. I've already talked about, the corporate market being a little bit soft in the fall, not as many shows happening. The usual galas, the association meetings, the other stuff is happening, but the corporate events aren't happening. That's a big chunk of our industry. And just, for comparison, most corporate events happen in the first half of the year. And missing out on the ones in the second half of the year really kind of stinks, right? Because you have all this capacity, you have this ability to service them, and the business just wasn't there. But hang on. 2025 is coming, and the opportunities look really good. Now, we've got an election to get through. We've got some things that need to settle down. Corporations will get their messages together, but regardless of their message, they're going to have that meeting, and it's showing up in the forecasts. Now, the vast majority of you don't really forecast. You kind of look ahead. You've got some recurring business, but rarely do you sit down and just kind of map out the revenue for the next year based on what you know. Oh, but Tom, we don't know. We try to forecast, but we don't know if that show is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. I hear that. Forecasting is fraught with mistakes, but we still need to do it. Now, you're putting quotes out there. You have recurring business. Oh, by the way, you need to be checking in on those clients instead of waiting, 3 months out or 2 months out to say, hey, what are we doing this year? Get them on your radar as soon as possible. But you have a good idea where probably 60% of your revenue is coming from next year. The rest of that revenue, just to get back to your 2024 levels, comes from, surprise places. It's drop-in work. It's the things that just kind of, it's the fish that jump in the boat over the transom. And that fill-in work will also continue to happen. And when the economy is strong, there's more of that work. And yeah, it's last minute. It's not always sexy work. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to fill your calendar, you can. If you need to turn down work, you can turn down work. That's a great problem to have. Now, if you're one of those people who's recognizing that 2025 is going to be a great year for you, what are you thinking about right now? Oh, no, we need to hire people. We need to buy more gear. We need to do this. We need to do that. Oh, the sky is falling. What are we going to do? Listen, 10 years ago, I probably would have told you something different. 10 years ago, I would have said, hey, take a look at your forecast, start buying that equipment, selling it onto other shows, use that to lift up your business, hire some people so you can keep your costs down. And guess what? That's not the advice that we give any longer because it's not scalable. That advice only works if you grow year after year after year after year, and we don't. I managed in an era where we had 9 straight years of double-digit growth. I mean, a bad growth year was 10%. We had 30, 40, and even 50% growth years for 9 years straight. All we thought about was hiring more people and buying more gear and just staying ahead of the curve until it didn't work out anymore. And when it hit hard. Since 2001, we've been hit hard at least 4 times, right? Where things were chugging along pretty good and then they were really, really bad. So we learned from the pandemic that scalability is important because scalability says we keep our overhead down. We don't bet on the come like we used to, right? We outsource as much as we can, as long as we can, and we only bring in new resources, new talent, and new inventory, okay, when the cost of carrying is far lower than the outsourcing cost. Not just a little bit lower, a lot lower. So now, big demand, what does scalability tell you to do right now? Do you add staff and buy gear ahead of demand? Not in the way you used to. Let's talk about this. My highest priority right now, if you've got a huge year coming up, is one, you should be crewing, you should be staffing all of those shows, right? You should just staff 6-9 months in advance. You should be staffed through your May or June busy season, whenever you get that first major dip. Crew those shows. Now, don't crew them the way you're thinking. Go to all your best people first, tie up all your staff first. No. Crew with the idea that you're going to build a bench. Now, staff the recurring projects, as many of them as you possibly can, okay? Test those recommended freelancers that you need to be hiring now, right? If there's a freelancer that you hope to use next year, get them on a show now. I don't care if you have to displace somebody. I don't care if you have to send 2 people where only one is needed. You need to kiss the frogs. If you've got a freelancer you think is going to be part of your future, get them on a show now and make sure so that you can book them as far in advance as possible, right? Don't rely on your A team of go-to freelancers for long-range booking. Your A team is going to be there. Sprinkle them in right now. Put one regular A team member onto a crew. Take one well-vetted freelancer who's relatively new to you and put them on that crew. And one hard-to-book expert. There's some people out there you would love to work with. You know they're great. You've used them before, and they're never available because they're so dang good. Book them now. Call them now. Get them to open up their calendar and find a job or 2 or 3, 4 jobs that you can put them on now, well into next year. The other thing you need to do to build your bench, it's not just about key show positions, the show technicians. It's also about the staffing agencies that you get your general technicians and your general labor from, right? You probably need to upgrade your staffing agencies. If you had any challenges last year with those companies getting you the right people, shop around. Don't hire AV techs from a company that crews concerts, right? This is just common sense, but you know what? We don't always think about that in a pinch. We call someone, they say they can get us hands, they get us hands, and a bunch of guys show up ready to build steel out in a field somewhere, and you're in a corporate AV environment, and you need a different type of talent. So talk to those suppliers, find out if they have AV technicians, people who will wear a shirt with a collar when they come to job site, people who can say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you, right? Show up on time and bring a little bit of skills to the game, right? We don't always need hands, but when we do need hands, we need them to fit the environments that we're working in. So the other thing is that you need to increase your labor rates, and you start with not just your billing rate to your customers, your internal rate for labor. Review it, understand what it really is. Too often do I help companies discover too late that their internal rate of labor is probably twice what they think it is. They look at the hourly cost of somebody, they add on the insurance, the extras and everything, and they find this really lovely number of $55, $65 an hour. But what they are not finding is how much carrying cost that person has for unbilled time, right? You look at somebody's annual compensation over the number of days that they were actually billable, as opposed to doing busy work or doing work that somebody who makes 1/3 what they're making could have done. You look at that, and that is their actual hourly rate. And very often we're finding out that our employees are costing us $80 an hour, when we can hire freelancers one job at a time for $75 an hour. So upgrade your understanding of your internal rate of labor, not because I want you to staff more people. I want you to know what having people on staff is really costing you, so that you can even out the staff the way that you need to. Either you need to use your people more, which means you need to book them more exclusively. You need to not have them going in and prepping shows and doing work that other people could be doing. They need to be out there being billable, 220 days a year. Building your bench. Last thing, I want you to quit apologizing to your customers for using better technicians than your local market can provide. If you have to fly somebody in to do a local show, to do it to your standards, do it. Okay? Quit looking at job costs to make decisions about the quality of your work. Right? You do need a deeper bench. It'd be great to have some local folks. It's really silly when you find some great local folks and you put them on a plane and you fly them across the country, which forces you to have to fly somebody in to do a local job. But I understand, there are people, we want to use people at their highest and best use. So don't apologize for having to bring somebody in. Help your customers understand, yes, talent is expensive. And the reason is that we won't compromise on talent. Okay? Our competitors might choose to do that. We choose not to. Sometimes I'm going to fly people in and I'm going to eat that extra cost, but I'm going to spread it across all of my customers, right? So build your bench. Get those new freelancers in, get them vetted, try them out, fall in love with them, book them as far in advance as you can. Your favorite freelancers now, sprinkle them in places. Okay? Don't tie them up completely. Don't fill up their calendar, because then you're going to rest on your laurels and you're not going to have any additional capacity. You want to see that next opportunity come in that fits in really nicely, and knowing that you've got people left on the bench that you are comfortable with, that you can crew those shows with. So spread the love around, mix your crews up, kiss more frogs, test out more people, build a deeper bench. Okay. Now, equipment. I'm not going to get out of here without talking about equipment. Now, you might end up buying more gear. That's all right. Balance is choosing how much we want to outsource and how much we want to insource, right? So unique criteria for doing that. But right now, before you rush out and buy new equipment for jobs that you have next year, book that equipment that you need with a trusted supplier. Book it. Get it booked. Having it booked will keep you dialed in to modifying the order as it evolves instead of giving yourself an out. Okay? Oh, well, what I mean by that. Perfect example. Client of mine had a big job for next year. They've wanted to buy some LED. They got a job that needs 2,000 tiles of LED. They wanted to go out and buy 2,000 tiles of LED. And now they're going to be a big LED company. They can put LED on every job, all because of this one-off show. Huge, huge investment. They're thinking strategically, but they're also not thinking strategically. I strongly encourage them to book the 2,000 tiles with a trusted supplier, and they were amazed at how little it was going to cost them compared to what they were going to spend to get into the LED tile business. They were thrilled with how much support they were going to get from that vendor, right? And here's the beautiful thing. As much as they fretted that they didn't want to book the 2,000 tiles with that company, because what if the job changed? The job changed. Client cut their budget, cut the LED order by 2/3. They're now down to 500 tiles, right? The vendor said, yeah, that happens all the time. We got 500 tiles for you. We're going to continue to serve you, take good care of you. What this company didn't have was an order for 2,000 tiles coming in. And now if they want to buy 500 tiles and that fits much better into their profile, they can do it. So, yeah, I know. I don't want to cancel an order. It makes me look bad. You know what makes you look bad? Not making money. Okay? B2B suppliers expect orders to cancel. That's what they are there for, right? They don't like it, but they're not stupid. They know what's going to happen. Last thing I want to talk to you about in terms of getting ready for next year. Trim processes. In the process of getting an order through your system, look for repeatable tasks that can be centralized and centralize them. If you've got project managers who are all doing the same tasks, they're all calling the trucking company to book trucking, stop that. Centralize that. increase the capacity of those people who you have to use on every job, right? Now, you might need to increase the number of project coordinators inside of your planning team to do this. In other words, maybe you have somebody right now who's just booking labor. Maybe they're doing travel, but now you need somebody to do sub-rentals and order trucks. Fine. My recommendation is if you're going to have 2 project coordinators, make sure they are interchangeable and that they can support all the jobs. And rather than saying, hey, you handle all the labor and you handle all the logistics, maybe it's you handle all the labor, logistics, travel, and sub-rentals for these jobs while you handle them for those jobs. It doesn't matter. Build your planning team because a planning team is scalable. Okay. Project managers can come and go. Production managers can come and go, but a planning team will carry you through busy times, and they're less expensive in slow times. So trim processes wherever you can. Now, if you find that you're the type of company that hires people to plug mistakes, okay, then you've skipped 2 mission critical steps. One, determine if the error that you're trying to fix was process driven. If it was process driven, fix the process, okay? If it was human error, coach the human. Too often I find errors in process and errors in people, and we solve it by hiring yet another person so that we don't make the same mistake again because there's one more person to double, triple check, spread the work around, and it doesn't address the actual problem. So if you're anticipating being busy, these are the things that you need to be focusing on. Okay. Now, as a last resort, hire some skilled people, buy some major equipment systems, but be really, really sure about the ROI on that. And for sake of assumption, assume 2026 is going to be a slower year than 25, and then reconsider your decisions. So lots of stuff to look forward to. We want to make the most money. We want to make hay while the sun is shining, as we say, right? Build your bench, book the gear that you're going to need, trim your processes, keep your overhead down, stay efficient, stay scalable, say yes to more business, outsource everything you can to get it done, work to the highest standards, but at the highest profit. That's what I do. Thanks for listening.
If you want to find out more about today's episode, go to trstimson.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes, related links, and tons of other valuable resources. If you haven't already subscribed to the Intentional Success Podcast, please do so, and I'd greatly appreciate if you would rate and review the show. Also, if you think you might be a good fit to work together or want more information about the Stimson Group, I'd love to hear from you. Visit trstimson.com for more information.